Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Power Is Now Homebuyer Townhall. My name is Eric Frazier. It's a beautiful day in Southern California, a great day to talk about home ownership. And that's what we do, folks. Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are talking about tools, resources. We're providing information, loan information. We're just trying to give you all that we can to help you make the dream of homeownership a reality. That's what the Homebuyer Town Hall is all about, and we would appreciate it if you would share us right now. If you're watching on Facebook, share the link. Like us on Facebook, of course, but share the link, right, to others who might appreciate getting this real-time information about what's going on in the market today and how buyers can kind of navigate through these pretty treacherous waters of real estate. Now, I am Eric Frazier, and I'm the host of The Power Is Now. In addition to being the host, I'm also a vice president and mortgage advisor with First Bank. My license number is 461-807. The views and opinions that I express on this show are my own and do not necessarily reflect that of First Bank. First Bank's been around for a long time, since 1910, and they do just about everything, including down payment assistance. And we're going to be talking about that later tonight. Now, in addition to being a vice president and mortgage advisor, I'm also a real estate broker. My license number is 011-43484. And so I have just a little bit of knowledge about real estate, and I love chopping it up with real estate agents and brokers. Today we have some extraordinary real estate agents with us today. We're going to introduce them one by one, and I certainly hope that you consider working with one of these agents if you're in their market area. These are VIP agents. That's what they are. And that stands for very important person or people, right? VIPs. And they're VIPs because they are extraordinary in so many ways. Years of experience. They have transaction history. They know their market areas like nobody's business. They are truly pros. And that's all we allow on The Power Is Now. To be a VIP agent is to be a true expert in real estate. We also have Carolyn Sunseri here with the Golden State Authority. She's going to be introducing herself in just a moment to talk about down payment assistance and some of the opportunities that are available with the Golden State to get in with very little money down. So, folks, this is going to be a jam-packed show with a lot of great information. So let's get started with the introductions. First, from the great state of Arizona, nobody sells real estate and nobody sells Arizona like Yvonne McFadden. Welcome, Yvonne, to the show.
Good afternoon, Eric and my VIP people. Thank you for having me today. I'm Yvonne McFadden. I'm with Deluxe Realty. And my telephone number is 480-628-2619. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Yvonne, for being with us today, and can't wait to hear about Arizona and your input on some very important topics we're going to be talking about. Next is Marisa Fletcher, our newest VIP agent out of, well, actually, Marisa, tell everybody where you're from.
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone, and my VIP agents. My name is Marisa Fletcher, and I work with eXp Realty. My license number is 017-89037, and I actually service all of the Inland Empire. So that's pretty much Riverside, San Bernardino County, everything between LA and San Diego County. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Marisa. And in addition to being an extraordinary real estate professional, Marisa is also a solar expert. And we're going to be conducting an interview with her about solar. Everybody's going solar, folks. Everybody. And so, and I understand why. Reducing your energy costs is a big deal, especially when you're already spending a lot of money for the house. You might as well look at reducing some of your cost and retaining that property. So look out for a great interview with Marisa about solar. And then finally, not as, in terms of real estate agents, that is Ameer Elahee, VIP agent extraordinaire. Ameer, welcome to the show.
It is always a pleasure to be here, Eric. It's good afternoon to our VIP agents. My name is Ameer Elahee with eXp Realty. My license number is 01313 504, and my cell phone number, which is always best to reach me, is 626-625-0099. That's 626-625-0099. I am located in a unique area. I'm actually between the Inland Empire and Los Angeles. So I actually serve both of those areas.
Fantastic, Ameer. Thank you again for being with us. And folks, Ameer not only brings experience in terms of selling real estate, but he has an incredible lending background, a housing counseling background. And so he's really someone to talk to if you're trying to just kind of get it together to be able to buy. And then finally, it's Carolyn Sunseri, Marketing Director with the Golden State Finance Authority, the sponsor of this show, the Homebuyer Townhall. I don't know what we would do without the support of the Golden State Finance Authority. Welcome, Carolyn, to the show.
It is absolutely my pleasure to be a part of these town halls. They have such great content for people, whether they're first-time home buyers or they're coming back to home buying. Maybe they own a home now, but looking to buy a new one to move into. I love to talk about down payment assistance, and so I look forward to being on this panel and getting a little further into how to achieve the dream.
Well, Carolyn, you are also bringing some great information, great news for people who have the money to buy, or they don't actually have the money. They have the income, they have the credit, but they just don't have the money. And you're solving that problem for thousands of people. In fact, folks, you'll be surprised. I'm going to have her share that number. How many people have taken advantage of down payment assistance, and it's made a huge difference in their life? So hang in there for Carolyn's presentation later in the program. So that's the lineup, folks. We've got extraordinary real estate professionals. We have Carolyn Sunseri, who's going to be talking about down payment assistance. And we're going to be talking about some very important, I would say, topics. I'll call them hot topics. The first one is, what are some of the important questions that buyers should ask sellers before making an offer on a home? There's a great news article about this, and people are, struggling in this market and then trying to decide on what house to buy. And before they pull the trigger and make that offer, what are some of the things they need to know? What are some of the questions they want their agent to find out about the house? Another is, how much should the buyer's earnest money be in order to show the seller or the listing agent that they are serious about getting that house? How do you determine how much to put down, in terms of the earnest money deposit? Not necessarily as it relates to the loan that you're getting. That may require very little money down or no money down at all. But how much should your earnest money deposit be? And then lastly, should buyers weigh the appraisal and also the loan contingency, either one or the other, in order to compete in today's environment? Should they do that? Well, these are some of the questions that our experts are going to weigh in on, folks. This is going to be a great show, so hang in there. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Want to keep up with the current developments happening in the world of real estate? The Real Estate Roundtable, hosted by Eric L. Frazier, is a show you do not want to miss. The show features a panel of VIP agents who are passionate about helping people. It is what they do best. They discuss today's hot topics, latest market updates and trends. The panel also conducts interviews with prominent figures in the industry. New episode every Friday live on Facebook and replay on the Power Is Now YouTube channel.
And we're back. For those of you just joining us, welcome to the Power Is Now Homebuyer Town Hall. Folks, we got a great show lined up for you today, and we're going to start with hot topics. These are questions that I get, that real estate agents get, that people are thinking about as we all try to figure out how to, help our clients buy a home as real estate professionals. in this market today. And there's a lot going on. Inventory is low and competition is still very, very high. So how does a buyer compete? So as you are looking at the slim pickings that are out there, what are some of the questions that you should ask the seller as an agent to the listing agent or as a buyer to their buyer's agent before making an offer on a home? And we're going to start with Ameer Elahee, because I know he works with a lot of buyers, and I'm sure he's already gotten this question. And so Ameer, first, again, thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule. Ameer just got back from vacation, folks, celebrating 28 years of marriage. Congratulations, man. I hope you had a wonderful time.
Well, it was really hard to come back, Eric. If it hadn't been for this session on the Homebuyer Townhall, I don't know if I'd still be out on vacation. But thanks for having me, Eric. I really appreciate it. One of the things that we're seeing, and that question does come up all the time, and that is, what makes our offer a strong offer? So we kind of ask the question, even though it comes from the agent and not directly from the buyer to the seller. It's kind of, what are the terms that they're looking for that will allow our offer to stand out? And I think that is something that, as we are moved to kind of this digital footprint in the real estate industry, it is really incumbent upon some of us older seasoned folks to really pick up the phone and try and call and make communication and establish some sort of relationship with the listing agent, just to be able to see exactly where they are. And so, once the offer comes in, it's a part of saying, hey, remember me? We spoke on the phone, or remember our text conversation. So I think that is one of the great things that I've found in submitting successful offers, is creating and establishing relationships with the listing agent, and then asking, hey, what is your seller really looking for?
Ameer, I appreciate that, because relationships are everything in business, right? I mean, if you're not liked or you don't establish rapport, you may not get the information you need, and you may not get the consideration you need. And it's completely unfair. But, being able to establish rapport with your peers in real estate, I believe, is everything. Now, once you've done that, though, you're trying to get some kind of insight as to the property or maybe the seller's motivation, right? And so a buyer is trying to figure out, man, should we pursue this house or not? Should we make an offer or not? What are some of the things we should try to find out about this home to make sure, number one, we can make a competitive offer. Number two, that this house is really the right fit for me as a buyer.
Yeah, the other part of that, and that's a great point that you mentioned. So what are some of the terms, that the seller is looking for? I know that recently there have been a slew, and as a listing agent myself, there have been a slew of requests for seller leasebacks, where the seller needs to stay in the property to either complete new construction on a property that they already have in escrow, or just to give them time to actually find another property. And so I know that has been something that has been prominent in our search with home buyers. And sometimes that works for the buyers, and other times it doesn't. I have a couple right now who I'm representing who is actually getting married in about 3 weeks. And so they want it to be in, and they currently, live in separate homes. So she has an apartment, he has an apartment, and they've basically kind of given them their notice. And when they return from their honeymoon, they really want to move in to their first place together. And so, we had gotten made that same phone call to an agent, a couple of agents on properties that we were looking for, and the sellers were looking for additional time to occupy the property after the close of escrow so that they could find another property. And that just didn't work for my sellers. They said, hey, we don't want to get married and come back from our honeymoon and then go live with our parents. And so that phone call actually, helped us say, hey, you know what, this property just doesn't work for us.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I tell you, those are, I don't know, someone's throwing a rock in their plans, if you will, right? I mean, and although the house may work, but the terms aren't working. And I totally get that. But, I have to say, Ameer, when I got married, I moved into my folks' home. Ruby and I were 19, man.
Oh my God.
19. We lived with our parents, got married at 19. And honestly, the best decision I've ever made, if you're listening, Ruby. Best decision I ever made, getting married young, and our parents helping us out and getting us started. And so with inventory so low, they might want to rethink that. And trying to find a house kind of lines up with your plans. But again, by asking those questions, finding that out, you were able to, let them know that maybe, this, unless they're willing to, move in with their parents, this deal is not going to work.
Right.
Are there any other questions, Ameer, before we move on to Marisa to see what she can contribute to this discussion?
I think one of the other questions that we've also, had to find out, especially in this market that has been super, super hot, and you kind of know, where we are, is we also wanted to know, if there are any additional, terms that we could actually throw in for the seller. So what do they like? Is there anything that we could do kind of outside of the contract that would kind of sweeten the deal?
Yeah. And listing agents willing to share that?
In some cases, that they really are not. But again, going into looking at the properties, you just have to be creative. So, some people are pet lovers, so you figure out, okay, well, wow, looks like they really love their, love their dog. So we may throw in some dog treats or some dog massages or whatever it is, with our offer, just as a gesture. Again, because it really makes the offer stand out, and they may or may not take it seriously, but hey, we'll throw in a couple of kennel days for that dog if you're accepting our offer.
Man, so we have 2 dogs here in my house. And if I was selling my home and someone added that to the offer, I would get such a kick out of that. It would get my attention. It would get my attention for sure. Exactly. Wow. Well, great job, Ameer, on the first question here. And now let's move on to Marisa to see what she has to say about this question. So let me restate the question again for those who might be just joining us. We're talking about questions that buyers should ask their agent to ask the seller's listing agent about a home that they are considering to make an offer on. What does your agent, as a buyer's agent, need to find out? What can they find out? What questions should they ask to make sure, number one, that the home is a good fit for you as a buyer, right? You're looking, they know what you want, that kind of thing. And number two, though, what kind of offer do we need to make to get the seller's attention, to get them to accept this thing? And this is a critical question, too, for buyers who are on offer number 5, 10, 15, 20. I was talking to an agent last month. They had made 50 offers, 55 folks. And I have to take my hat off to both the agent and the buyer. The commitment level of that agent to help their buyers find a property. And then to the buyer, their perseverance, their toughness. How many times can you hear no before you give up? And so I take my hat off to both of them for their commitment to home ownership. So Marisa, what do you advise your buyers on this very important question?
Well, thank you again, Eric, for the question. And I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Ameer said. I mean, we're kind of in the same markets. We work with the same company, so we have a lot of the same philosophies. We know what it takes to get offers accepted in this market. So the very first thing that I'm going to ask on behalf of my buyer and let my buyer know this is what we're looking for. It's really just one question. What is important to the seller? Right? That's what we're going to be asking the listing agent or the listing side. Hey, you know, like Ameer said, getting someone on the phone, having that conversation. If you can't text, is second best, but phone is better. And just getting that agent on the phone and saying, hey, what is it that your seller is looking for? Traditionally, or in the, you know, just very recently, we were using lease backs because it was usually a lease back. You know, like Ameer mentioned, the seller wants to be in the property an additional 30 days, 45 days, maybe even 2 months, right? So that they can ensure that they only make one move between this property and that property. But what happens if that's not the scenario? If the seller doesn't need a lease back, right? As we know, all situations are different. Let me give you an example of a situation that how we structured an offer in order to have it accepted. The seller did not want a lease back. They're moving into another home, so they didn't want a lease back. They're ready to go now, as soon as it closes.
Mhm.
Their issue was they had no funds for the deposit for the EMD on the new home. So in having that conversation, agent to agent, we determined it, you know, we came up with the plan. If it was okay with the buyer and the seller, the buyer agreed to release a portion of his $10,000 EMD to the seller so that the seller could use that $4,000 for his EMD on his new home.
Wow, I love that. Man, I have never heard that before. Ameer, so that is getting creative.
A little different, but it all came about from having a conversation, from us having a conversation with the other agent and really trying to dig in and determine how can we make our offer stand out, okay? And then having that conversation with the buyer and saying, okay, this is the scenario, this is the pros, this is the cons. Is this the house you want? Are we super motivated? We've got our loan in place, we're locked and loaded. I think we can make this calculated decision and it'll work for you. And in this scenario, it worked. So a situation like that. I have another one that is a little bit more unique. And I borrowed it from before I even sold real estate 18 years ago. When the market was crazy, they used to offer items with the transaction, you know, maybe offer to sell a Porsche with the house when you're in luxury homes or something like that, right? So I'm not doing those luxury in homes right now, you know, where we're selling $5 million houses. But on the flip side, I have a set of buyers that had SoFi tickets, stadium tickets to the football games, right? So they've got 8, 6, you know, season passes or whatever. They're going to go to all the games. Obviously, they're not going to make all those. Those tickets have a monetary value. Why not offer the seller that we know is a football fan 2 tickets to one of these games? Offers like that, you know, that are just slightly different. And that's one of my little secrets. I'm not going to give away anymore, but that are just slightly different makes it stand out. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to get accepted, but hey, if you've got a football fan there and you know there's a 49er game coming up or something and you've got these SoFis, why not? That's what got their offer accepted. So those are just 2 examples of thinking outside the box in order to get my buyer's offer looked at and then ultimately accepted.
Marisa, those are 2 really creative, fantastic ways to get your buyer offers accepted, but more importantly, to get the seller interested, to start that dialogue, because isn't that the challenge when you have properties out there that are getting 10, 15, 20 offers? What can you as the agent say or do, your buyer do, just to get them to focus on you and your client? And releasing a deposit, that is genius. I mean, most people who are selling their home may need some or all of the proceeds to be able to move on to the next deal. And if they're buying new construction or something like that, they need a significant, you know, earnest money deposit. So that releasing a deposit, that is genius. And then the SoFi stadium tickets for people with season ticket holders, whether it be, doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, hockey, to learn about the seller's sports team or what they're, you know, I don't know how I guess you would ask the seller.
You can see it in their house usually. When you go in their homes, they've got their favorite team displayed. Sometimes there's a whole little man cave going on, and you know they're 49er fans or Raider fans or whatever, Charger fans.
That is great. That is great. Now, any other questions that you think the buyer should know or should have answers to as it relates to their particular needs, and identifying the property? Like, I think Ameer gave a good example of a client's need for the timing of everything to line up because they're getting married.
Right. I mean, and that kind of all falls into whatever strategy we have together from the beginning. Like Ameer said, each home is specific. It may or may not work depending on the seller's needs or the buyer's needs. But again, I think most importantly is just having a clear understanding of what they really want. And once we know what that side really wants, as long as the buyer can comply with that and that's okay with the buyer, we can probably put something good together in order to get an accepted offer. So I'm going to say it centers around that one question. Everything kind of derives from that.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, this has been really great. Question number one, what are some of the important questions buyers should ask their sellers before making an offer? And this is in actuality, the buyer's agent, getting information that would be really instrumental in moving that offer forward, getting the seller's attention, starting the dialogue, everything from establishing rapport with the listing agent so you can get the information you need, to offering the seller more time if necessary to get out of the property, or maybe to lease it back, or just more time to move, and to finding out what the seller likes. Now, you can either ask that directly, and the listing agent might be willing to share it, or you can find out yourself, like Marisa's talking about. I mean, what a great idea. Check out the man cave, look at the sports team, look at, maybe they have other hobbies. You see a lot of surfing equipment or golfing equipment, golf bags in a garage. I mean, those are indications that the person might love golf, and that could be another strategy. So I tell you, these have been great, and great job, Marisa and Ameer. Let's move on to question number two, and we're going to go back to you, Ameer. Kick us off with this number two, and that is, how much should the buyer's earnest money be to make the sellers know that they are serious? I've seen, being a lender, and contracts coming in, I've seen earnest money deposits for as little as $500 or $1,000, and some as big as $50,000. And I've often wondered how that was decided. Who decided on how much the earnest money deposit should be? And so, Ameer, what is your advice to your clients about earnest money deposits, and what do you just advise in general?
Well, one of the great things that you and I have established in working together is that a lot of times when I'm working with a client, we already know what the financing look like from the beginning all the way to what it's going to cost them to actually close the transaction. So in a lot of cases, what I recommend is that we put that total amount or whatever the buyer has available as the earnest money deposit. Now, I used to teach this in my workshops when I would do first time homebuyers, and just simply use a quick example. If the credit is the same, if the savings is the same, and let's say the actual offer price on the house is actually the same, which offer as a seller would you go with? One that has a lower deposit or one that has a higher? And so most of the time, my clients follow my advice and put up as much as they possibly can, especially if they're coming in, let's say it's a 5% down transaction and they've got that money that's available. And what I've also shared with them is that, let's say they're doing a 1% down deal, or even less, where they're getting credits and things like that, and they've got $10,000 available. I said, listen, if you put that towards a transaction, we'll check with the lender and see if it's possible that that money can be returned at the end of the transaction. So I'm an all-in kind of guy. The more money you put up, the better you look in terms of, again, making an impression and submitting a strong offer.
Ameer, just as a follow-up question to that, I've had on cash transactions that I know of that didn't involve financing, the listing agent asked the buyer to release that deposit, whatever it might be. It's all cash, and so it's a 15, 20, or even a 30-day escrow, but they're asking them to release that deposit. And I'm wondering, first, do you agree with that kind of strategy as a listing agent? And as a buyer's agent, would you recommend on a buyer to release their deposit at all, whether they're financing or paying cash?
So on a cash deal, I think it's different because the buyer has already, made some decisions, and they actually have a different set of means to be able to do that. And so on a cash deal, I will recommend it. But again, as we work with, the instead of the pre-approval letter, which is kind of traditional, and working with you, Eric, we've kind of established this new, I won't say it's new, but it's a commitment letter.
Yes.
And so that really looks the same as cash.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would do in that case is, again, have the buyer really write up a very strong offer using a large earnest money deposit, and then to write the stipulation in that, once the inspection or the appraisals come in, we'll release it. And that would be prior to actually closing. I'm not a big fan of releasing it for my either first-time home buyers or my move-up buyers without having that guarantee there. Mm-hmm. But if, we've got a commitment letter, from First Bank or whoever we're dealing with, and we know that once the appraisal and the inspection is done, then we'll write it up that we'll release that after. So, after we look at these things.
Yes. Well, and thank you for bringing that up about the commitment letter, because it really is the difference between the ability to close not only quickly, but the ability to get the seller's attention, because when you have a commitment letter, there's no loan contingency. There's no loan contingency. There's just the appraisal and the inspection contingency, which does look very much like a cash offer, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really why, again, you talk about making strong offers and what we should have included in there. We're documenting that this is not a pre-approval letter.
Yes.
But this is a commitment to lend. And the only thing that we're waiting on is the appraisal and the inspection. And so, once we're able to do that, then, and those things check out, we'll release the,
yes.
We're willing to release the actual earnest money deposit. And again, depending on the type of program, it would be, we'll check before we do it, but we'll say, hey, you know what? If you're only going to have to put, $5,000 down and you got 20, then we'll confirm with the lender, what happens to that additional 15,000. And if we could get it back mm-hmm. at the end of closing, because the buyer is putting it in, mm-hmm. Then we'll go in with 20,000 as our earnest money.
Right. Well, I can tell you right now, the minimum, as long as the minimum contribution is met, whether it be 3.5% down FHA, 3% down conventional, or 5% down. And they also have enough money either in reserves or they're adding additional money for closing costs. And those closing costs are, estimates initially, but finalized. Anything above that has to go back to the buyer. Any additional funds have to go back to the buyer unless the buyer chooses to apply that to the purchase price and have a lower loan amount. They could also do that, but that has to go back to the buyer. Wow, great job, Ameer. And
let me add another thing there. Just
sure.
as you talked about that, because that money will go back to the buyer. And so in making strong offers, I know you mentioned earlier that there was someone who had written 50 offers on properties. And I think that that's commendable. But again, when you have strategies as seasoned VIP agents that we're talking about, and you've got a great lending partner, then all of those things work together in a market like this to really make a difference and make your offer stand out. So now, just in a very short time, we've really said, okay, we're going to find out what stands out to the buyer. or to the seller? What do they need? Do they need tickets? Do they need dog kennel, doggy daycare? How can we make this thing, sweeter?
Right.
And it may be a lease back, but then you start talking about getting a commitment letter and a large deposit. Well, now you're really, really setting yourself apart. And I think that, that doesn't lead to making 50 offers on properties. It really allows you to stand out in the beginning.
Wow. Way to wrap that up, Ameer. And a great job. Marisa, seasoned real estate professional you are. And just in the last question here, coming up with that, I love that, getting tickets and or, finding out what the seller wants and making that part of the offer so that you can at least start the dialogue, right? Because many offers are made and the listing agents never even respond to it, right? Don't even get a response to your offer because they're not required to do that. They have to acknowledge receiving the offer, but they're not required to do anything more than that, right?
That is actually accurate. That is true. But I can tell you that in all the years that we've been writing offers, even in this market, that I've never submitted an offer and not got a response or had a conversation or not been within the top 3, 4, or 5 offers that were looked at to be countered. And it all starts with, number one, having your process tight, working with someone who has the financing taken care of up front, make sure that buyer has proper expectations up front. And the reason, my reasoning is if you submit a strong package and you include all of the items that are needed, you're gonna typically get a response back. That's just been my experience. That's been my experience with it. But when it comes to EMD and how much earnest money deposit should be put down, I am, again, kind of like with the school of Ameer, okay? What I do with our clients, what our team does is the very first thing we do is we sit down and devise a strategy for that buyer. We devise a plan for that buyer. No 2 plans are the same, okay? Because no 2 people are the same, no 2 families are the same. In that plan and strategy, it's very important for us to know how much money do you have to put towards the purchase of this home? Not how much money do you have in the bank? I don't want to know that, okay? Right? I want to know how much money do you have that is committed to going towards this home? Because they may have 40,000 in the bank, but they only want to spend 15. Let's start there.
Right.
Okay. That's number one, is for me to identify what that number is. And then based on what that number is, I'm going to that buyer with a part of the strategy. Quite honestly, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, the earnest money deposit is a part of the strategy here. The higher it is, the better it looks to the other side. Okay. Again, we're going up against multiple offers. If you've got somebody offering $1,000 and $500, right? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in between that 500 and 1,000? Or since you know that you've got to put down, let's just say it's 3.5% anyway. And this earnest money deposit is coming out of that 3.5%, not in addition to that 3.5%. Depending on how much they love the house, I give them a scale of 1 to 5. Where are you at with this house? If they're at a 5 or a 5+, well, then how strong are we willing to come with that earnest money deposit? I know that you've got $30,000 to work with. We know our appraisal is tight. We looked at the comps, right? We see there's comps to support our value. There's no gap that we're going to probably have to worry about. You know, nothing's 100%, but based on this data, this is where it looks like we're at. Okay, you've got 30,000 to put down. Let's go with, how does 15 sound? How strong do you want this house? It's a 5+, right? Would you be willing to lose this house by not putting down an additional 5,000? If that answer is yes, that's fine. That's fine. That's not my call to make. Then we'll go in with the 10, right? Because remember, we have contingencies in place. If I'm dealing with the first-time home buyer, move-up buyer, traditional buyer, there's contingencies in place that allow us the time to verify all this information, get our appraisals in place to make sure that everything is solid before we release any deposit. And to answer your question about releasing deposits, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to release them in advance. Well, obviously it's up to the client, okay? Because it's the client's ultimate decision. Right. But I'm going to advise them that that's not something that I would do, okay? And here's why. Now, again, if you're dealing with investors, that's a whole different scenario. It's a whole different scenario. The investor is coming to us and they say, this is what I want to do. Go ahead and do it. I bought 50 homes, right? It's a different conversation.
Right.
But mostly when you're dealing with first time home buyers, move up buyers, people that don't do this, 20 times a year, something like that, you want to make sure those protections are in place because you never know what could happen. And we don't have the entire control of the transaction. So we don't want to put our clients at risk. That's my belief, my philosophy.
Marisa, I love it. And, one thing you said is really, that really brings it home for the buyer. And that is the question, are you willing to lose this deal over $5,000, say more, in an earnest money deposit? And that really, brings it home, doesn't it? When you put it to them like this, I mean, how on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, you really want this house, this is a 5. What are you willing to do? How much are you willing to demonstrate that it is a 5 in your offer? And then that way you make it the seller's decision. They can't come back and you say, oh, geez, Marisa, you made me do this, right?
Correct. And then I also want to know how much skin they have in the game, because that's what the sellers are looking for. And one of the indicators of that, when you can't beat a price, when you can't beat the financing, right? Because it just is what it is. The seller's looking at buyer motivation and they want to know how motivated this buyer is. And the earnest money deposit line is one area that shows the motivation. So if you've got to put down 3.5% anyway, we solidified our loan and financing with Eric. We know we're already approved. We just need the appraisal. We know we're going to come in with this money either way it goes. Why not put a little bit more skin in the game up front, right? If that's what you say you want, if that's what's going to get us this house.
You're so right. And having skin in the game, not only and making large earnest money deposits, not only impresses the seller to really kind of take a good look at what you're offering. Is it what they're looking for, and to start the conversation and dialogue. But also from a real estate perspective, as from an agent, do you really want to work with people who are not dead serious? I'm talking heart attack, dead serious. They're no games, no playing around, no, I'm thinking about it. You only want to work with people that are absolutely serious about buying a house, right?
You are exactly right, Eric. We also work on the listing side as well. And the number one thing when it comes to sellers, again, when you're in a market where the price is the same, you're going to get the price you want, you're going to get the financing you want. The number one thing for the sellers, again, is motivation. And quite honestly, before it gets to the seller, it's got to get through the agent. So you really got to impress two people here. You got to impress the agent first, because they're the ones that's making the recommendations for the buyers and the sellers.
Right.
And so yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. Motivation is the name of the game. And that's what people are looking for. And if an offer is presented, we've got 4 listings right now. If an offer comes over and it's a $500, $1,000 EMD, I mean, you see the look on my face. It already creates distaste. It's still going to go in front of the seller, of course. They get to make the final decision. But what am I going to tell the seller about this offer when I'm looking at this versus this? I'm going to give them my professional opinion, which is probably this person may not be as vested to this property as this they're indicated. It's just the honest truth.
Folks, now you're hearing this. For those of you who are tuning in now and watching this show, or you're listening to the podcast, this is a listing agent speaking. This is a listing agent, and so is Ameer. And they're telling you straight up, you're making an offer on a $500,000 property or a $600,000 property, and your earnest money deposit is $1,000. Forget about it. Forget about it. It's just not happening. Now they're required to show all listings to their sellers, but they're not going to be enthusiastic about that offer. Ameer, jump in here for a second on this, because Marisa just took us down another lane here about the buyer's commitment and skin in the game, their motivation. And if they're not willing to really step up, are you even willing to work with them?
Well, I think that was really my thought as she was speaking, and that is that we really have a extensive buyer consultation and really let the buyer know, here's what we're doing, here's the market that we're in. And if we're going to work together, then here's how we're really going to approach this situation. And so I think that again, going back to agents, and again, we've been around for a while, and so you get a chance to see, people always call me. I get solicitations saying, hey, do you want more buyer leads? And frankly, I don't, because they are everywhere. They're everywhere. But what I really want is buyers who will listen to me. It is literally like people who, go to a medical practitioner and get a prescription for whatever is ailing them. And then they go home and don't take the prescription. And then they wonder why why they don't feel any better. Well, I feel the same way about what we do here, especially working with buyers in a market like this. So again, for people who've been around a long time, this is not the first market that we've really had a seller's market. So if you go back about maybe 10 years ago, we were here again just after the market started to recover. And it was a frenzy. And so in that interview or in that consultation, we're saying, this is what if we're not willing to look at it from this standpoint, then it may not be a good idea for us to work together. And so we've got a list of things that, not only do they have a list of things that they want 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a big backyard, and, open concept kitchen and that kind of thing. But as a agent that just is experienced in this market, then I'm saying, okay, here's what we're doing for earnest money deposit. Here's what we're doing for inspection. Here's what, how long we have. And so we have those things kind of mapped out as well. And if the buyer isn't really willing to kind of play by those rules, then it may not be a good fit.
Marisa, you have met, folks, Marisa is a brand new VIP agent on the Powers Now, and this is her second Homebuyer Town Hall. And man, Marisa, you are bringing it. Thank you for just your insight, and you're taking us down another road with this question. And so I want to give you the last word on this. The buyer's motivation, the earnest money deposit is clearly an indication of how motivated they are. And then just working with buyers and showing them properties. I'm certain you've had that buyer that wanted you to make an offer that you didn't agree with. They wanted to make an offer, say, below the list price, or not high enough to meet what the property is going to sell for, which is maybe 2, 3, 4, 5% above list price. How do you handle that with your buyers?
Okay, so again, piggybacking off of Ameer and back to my last answer, it all comes down to that buyer's consultation that we have. And me being an experienced agent, this is not my first go around, right? When I'm in there and I'm providing buyers with information, it's not just me telling them what I think. I'm also logically and tangibly showing them with the stats, with the data in the MLS. So if I'm pulling up properties in the area you say you want to buy, the properties that are comparable to what you want to buy, and we pull up the MLS and you see that absolutely no property has sold under list, no property has sold where you're suggesting that we submit the offer, then I'm going to ask that buyer, please give me the justification. Please give me the justification for why we're offering this way, right? Because when I have to present it over to the other side, they're going to ask me for that justification. 9 times out of 10, there is no justification. They're working from what their mom did some years ago, what their friends did in a different market. If I can't get the proper expectations from that buyer up front, unfortunately, we might not be a good fit to work with each other. Okay, because this is what's going to happen. This is why I tell them, just like Ameer mentioned with the agent with the 50 offers, I've never written that many offers for one person. And here's why. After a buyer is rejected 2 or 3 times, they have this mental thing that goes on. They feel rejected, right? And during that process, I've seen buyers wait themselves out the market because they got rejected a couple of times. And they said, well, I'm going to wait till next year. I'm going to wait till the year after. And then what happens? Now the property is $50,000 higher. I believe it is a disservice to not properly educate the buyers and set the proper expectation. I believe it is a disservice to that client if I'm going out there with them, allowing them to think that they can write offers 30,000 under list, 20,000 under list. Okay. Now that doesn't mean every offer has to be over list or can't be list price, or that there's never any negotiation. Okay. But in this market where there is a lack of inventory, where there are 15 offers per property, I need justification, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, how you think we're going to be successful offering less. Would you do that when we buy your home and I'm going to help you sell that home in the next 5-10 years, whenever that is, are you going to take 20,000 less because you like the buyer, because you think they should have it for that? So I try to put it on both sides so that they can see. I ask for the justification. If the judge is just not realistic with a successful action, unfortunately, at that time, our ways as friends, or things change, we can get together later. But if you don't have what it takes for this particular market, it's the market, it's not me. Okay. Another thing in this market, even though there are great programs out there, there's down payment assistance and there's help with closing costs, and there's really great programs out there, you cannot buy a home with $0 like in the past. You just can't. Okay. And in this market, well, we're starting to correct ourselves, thank goodness. But in this market, sellers want more than what the home is worth. That means they know it's worth $450. They want $475. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is the market that we're dealing with. So in order to combat this, we're going to adjust here. Are you okay with that? Well, no. I want the $500,000 home and I'm approved at $475. Okay, we got to get in alignment. So I don't even go out to a car. I don't show a property. I don't even talk homes until we have all expectations in line for the market and we have a workable plan, something that I can help them accomplish. You can't give me something impossible to do and then say, hey, agent, work magic. Because two things I can't change are math and the market. Math is math, market is the market. I say it every day. Math is math and the market is the market. I don't like math all the time, but math is math and the market is the market. I can't change it. I can help you navigate it and work with it. So that's where we start from. We have to have an understanding. We are a team. This is not, agent wave your magic wand, because I don't have one of those. I wish I did. I'd be rich. So these are the kind of conversations that I'm having in those consultations initially. I'm like, hey, look, we're on the same team. We're trying to accomplish the same thing. But there's just a way that we're going to have to go about doing that. Let's devise the plan and strategy now before we even go out. It's all about expectation. There's no way. I mean, it's just a waste of everyone's time to go out and do something that is not going to work. Yeah.
Marisa, just listening to you, first, it's clear, and it should be to everyone, not just you, but also to Ameer, the level of experience and professionalism and the success you both already have. Because successful real estate professionals, seasoned real estate professionals, really don't just work with anybody who wants to buy a house. They have to bring, first of all, an absolute commitment to the table that they want to buy, number one. Number two, they have to have respect for the agent's experience, their knowledge, their license, their professionalism. They have to give them the respect that they have earned and through years of experience to advise them and to accept their advice, to follow their lead. And so often buyers, especially higher educated buyers with advanced degrees and professions, they feel because of their high level of intelligence in their occupations that it somehow transfers to the field of real estate, and it does not. And so I think that I hope those who are watching this program, listening to Ameer and to Marisa, as they kind of lay out, what the expectation should be, how they advise their clients, that you do truly, if you want to buy a home right now, or if you want to sell your home and get the max price right now, you absolutely ought to be working with a serious, seasoned real estate professional. And that's what we have here on the Power Is Now Media. Nothing but seasoned VIPs real estate professionals that can guide you and help you navigate through these treacherous waters called real estate. Whether you're buying it or selling it or investing in it, you need a pro on your side. Now, I tell you, I don't know whether to go to a break or to keep it going, because I got one more question before we end this segment. And folks, I don't know about you, but I'm just eating all this up. These guys are doing a fabulous job in answering these questions. The final question is, and I know if you are watching right now, you're a buyer, I know that you have already been, if you're active in the market, you've already been perhaps facing this question, and that is, should you waive your appraisal contingency? Should you waive your loan approval contingency? Now, I'm going to weigh in first, and then I'm going to go to Marisa. I mean, Ameer, you've been kicking off all the topics. It's now Marisa's turn. All right. So, but I'm going to start with the loan contingency myself, both speaking as an experienced real estate broker and a mortgage banker for 40 years. I honestly have not seen a situation where it justified removing a loan contingency unless the person has a fully approved loan commitment from the bank. There is a difference between a pre-approval and a loan commitment. Pre-approvals are issued by loan officers. They are based on the loan officer's review of your income and assets. That information is entered into an underwriting system by the loan officer based on their analysis and calculations of your income and assets and credit. And if the system issues an approval, it's Fannie Mae's desktop underwriter, they then provide that approval to you in a pre-approval or pre-qualification letter. Now, there is no difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Both are done by the loan officer. Both are entered into an underwriting system that is done by the loan officer. And so they're both really the same. Whereas a loan commitment is a fully processed loan by a processor, a loan processor, and that loan then is submitted to an underwriter. If it's an FHA loan, it's a DE underwriter. If it's a conventional loan, it is a bank underwriter. And only an underwriter can approve a loan that would actually commit the bank to the financing. That's the difference. That's the difference. A bank would not commit themselves to funding a loan on my signature, not as a loan officer or mortgage advisor. And not just me here at First Bank, I'm talking about any loan officer, any mortgage advisor working for any financial institution in the country. None of us have the authority to actually commit the bank to extending credit to a buyer. The only person in a financial institution that has that authority to actually do that is an underwriter. I say all the time that an underwriter is perhaps the most powerful person in the bank, more powerful than even the president of the bank, because even the president of any bank does not have the authority to commit the bank to a loan. Maybe to a commercial loan if they're doing that, but not to a residential loan. Only an underwriter can do that. And think about that. Underwriters are committing the bank every day to millions of dollars a loan every single day. A typical underwriter will approve 8 to 10 loans. If the average loan is, say, $400,000, that's $3 million a day that they're committing the bank to fund. And I don't know, depending on the number of underwriters they have, that's a lot of money. So these are very powerful people and the only people that have the authority. Now, if you have that, if you have a loan commitment from the bank, then absolutely, you don't even need to have a loan contingency, because a full loan commitment from the bank resolves all income, assets, and credit conditions. They're not issued with any income, asset, or credit conditions. The only condition is the property itself, identifying the property, and the property appraises. So that's my recommendation as a loan officer, it doesn't matter what institution you're working with, even my own First Bank, do not put yourself out there making offers on properties without a loan commitment. Because think about this. You're making offers on loan commitments, the loan commitment gets approved, you're making offers on a property with a pre-approval, it gets approved. And then the first thing you have to do is spend $500 or more on an inspection, and then $700 to $1,000 on an appraisal. And you don't even have a loan yet. It hasn't even been processed by a processor, has not even been, the underwriter doesn't even know your name. And yet you're out $1,200, not only that, but a $5,000 to $10,000 earnest money deposit. To me, as an experienced mortgage professional and as an advocate for the consumer, it does not make any sense. And I don't think any real estate professional should be out making offers without their buyers being required to deliver to them a full loan commitment. And the difference is it takes time though. It takes, about 2 weeks to get a loan commitment because it has to be processed, whereas a pre-approval could happen in 24 hours. And that's why they're simply not worth the paper they're written on. Now that's my contribution to question number 3. Should a buyer waive the appraisal contingency and loan contingency in order to compete? Now, let's bring it to Marisa. Marisa, what are your thoughts on this question?
Okay, so my thoughts about waiving contingencies. I'm going to preface this by saying that each client and each offer is different. Okay. Every transaction is different. Typically for first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, traditional buyers, no, you're not going to waive contingencies. When we typically present our offers, they're not with waiving contingencies, they are with reduced contingencies though. A reduced home inspection time, a reduced appraisal time, and a slightly reduced loan time from the 21 days. With any buyer that we work with, we have, Eric and other preferred lenders that we will not even get in the car until that is confirmed. Those numbers are solidified in number, and all we're waiting on is the appraisal. Okay, so we make sure we have that up front, because there's no point in looking at properties today without being fully approved to submit an offer today. Because if you look at it today, you're looking at it with 17 other people, and it's not going to be available by Monday when you then go and try to get your financing in place. So it's crucial that financing is in place first, because I would hate to show you your dream home. Wow. And you fall in love with it, and it gives you the memories and everything you're looking for, and there is nothing I can do about it because we do not have a full loan package, commitment letter, everything in place. Okay. And so with that, like I said, we reduce contingencies. It'll be a 10-day reduced contingency, which means appraisal is ordered day number 1. Home inspection is ordered day number 1. We're verifying all those things up front, day number 1, not day number 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? We have a reduced contingency period. If I'm dealing with investors though, that's different, of course. That's always different. They're a little bit more savvy with what they're dealing with. We pull comps on every property that we look at. So if I'm taking you out to show you 5 different properties, I've got the comps with me, as well as the payment and as well as the tax information. Okay, while we're looking at the property, not after, while we're looking at the property. So we have a pretty good idea of what the value may come in at. We're not appraisers, but we're looking at the same thing those appraisers are looking at. Okay. Right. So again, my answer, for the most part, no, we do not reduce. Every transaction is different though. There has been instances, and I'll give you a little, we'll call it what it is, where I removed appraisal contingency, but didn't remove other contingencies. So although appraisal contingency has been removed, if your inspection contingency is still in place and you haven't released that yet, and there's an issue with the appraisal, you can just cancel based on the inspection contingency. So it varies. Again, I'm trying to get my offer accepted. And so if that's a little trick I have to do to get me on the listing agent.
Right.
The contract better. Right.
That is called sleight of hand. And
that's how they should review their contract completely, right, Ameer?
Well, and as a listing agent, that is exactly what we look for. And I think that just to add on to what Marisa is saying, and I think that the other thing that we're starting to find is that in markets like this, agents are a lot of times overwhelms, especially if they don't have a system to handle 15 offers. And so literally your bell and your email is going off, ding, ding, ding. And then guess what, Mr. Listing Agent or Ms. Listing Agent, you've got to basically go back and look at all of those offers and see. And so those are one of the things that I think is classic on our side. And again, that's an education piece. So I'm saying two things to my buyers. Number one, go back to something Marisa said earlier. How bad do you want the house? Are you really willing to put skin in the game and figure out whether you want to, number one, pay above or release the listing contingency or the appraisal contingency? And number two, we've been really, really successful in releasing some and not all. And so I could release an inspection and appraisal, and I may never release the loan contingency. And again, if the agent isn't calling for that, frankly, I've got one now. We just didn't release contingencies. And after 35 days, then the agent looked up and went, oh my gosh, we were supposed to close 5 days ago. What are you doing? I said, well, you know what? We never released contingencies. And now I'm saying to the agent, you know, you can start over if you want to, or you can wait another 2-3 days on me. You know, so it becomes, you know, seasoning and experience in this market where I will always put in my offer summation with an email. Typically don't do the letter anymore like we used to, but I'll put it in the front of my email. Here are the contingencies that we're releasing and we're shortening the inspection one. And so, but I never release all of them. And so people, again, get excited. And if they catch it, then that's great. And we'll go back and negotiate that as a part of the counter offer. But if they don't, then we just sail through it. I really had one recently where we did not release any contingencies. I take that back. We released the appraisal contingency, but we didn't release the loan contingency. And then the property appraised at $25,000 less than we actually submitted our offer for. But because we didn't release that contingency on the loan side, we just said, we're not going to pay it. And so we forced the agent to basically say, he had to go back to his seller and go, oops, I blew it. We've been in escrow now for 28 days and the buyer doesn't want to pay what the contract says and they want to renegotiate. And so we did. Now my buyer ended up paying a little bit more than the property appraised for.
But it wasn't 25,000 more.
But it wasn't 25,000. In fact, it was only 10,000. But again, it's just being seasoned. And so I knew that there were other properties in that neighborhood that were on the market. And so I try and stay in contact with my client. Wasn't necessarily comfortable, but I was able to kind of educate her on what the value was of paying $10,000 more. And so I was able to call her about 2 months after we closed escrow and said, hey, I know that you didn't want to pay $10,000 more than the appraisal, but I'm sending you via email, I'm sending you 3 properties that closed for $30,000 more than you paid for your property. But again, that was research. I wasn't scared at all because I knew what they were in escrow for, what they were pending for. And so I had another client in the same area. So I called her back a month later and said, hey, I could get you $40,000 more than you paid for this property 3 months ago. I got a buyer for you. And so, I mean, that's the value of kind of knowing the market and having experience and writing offers and knowing, you know, when to cave on the appraisal contingency and when not to.
Ameer and Marisa, you guys have done a fantastic job today in really talking about, you know, strategies to help buyers get into homes today. And it's really been insightful, and it does, everything you've said both today has truly reflected the experience you bring to the table as real estate professionals, VIP agents here on The Power Is Now. Folks, we're going to transition now we've learned all about, the various strategies to, buying a home, right? From the important questions you should ask, how much earnest money you should put down, whether you should waive contingencies, whether it be the appraisal contingency or a loan contingency. I mean, this has been a lot of information, and I certainly hope you have enjoyed it. Please let others know about this show. It's Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Please share this with others. If you're listening to the podcast, please share the podcast, because I'm certain that there are buyers out there that could use this great information. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about down payment assistance, and we have Carolyn Sunseri, Director of Marketing for the Golden State Finance Authority, with us today to tell us all about what Golden State has to offer. You're listening to The Power Is Now, Homebuyer Town Hall. We'll be right back.
Many Californians fear that they will not be able to pay their rent next month. Financial education and literacy are the catalyst for relief. So what resources are out there? A State of California program connects you with a HUD-certified housing counselor who can assist you on your financial education journey with no cost to you. Call today at 1-800-569-4287. Again, that is 1-800-569-4287.
And we're back. For those of you just joining us, welcome to The Power Is Now Homebuyer Town Hall. Folks, we have been having an incredible conversation about real estate. And if you are a first-time home buyer, a move-up buyer, or an investor, man, you've just received a lot of great information that you should think about. And if you are in need of assistance, I can't make a stronger recommendation than the agents who are on this show today. And if they're not in your market area, go to thepowerisnow.com, where you can find real estate agents and our menu on thepowerisnow.com. Just go to the menu, see real estate agents. These are VIP agents, experienced, knowledgeable real estate agents. And if you've been listening, you already know. Now, we're going to be talking about the financing. The number one challenge still today for most people to become homeowners is not their income. They make enough money. Heck, they're paying incredible rents right now, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month in rent. So it's not their income. It's not their credit. They have, in order to rent an apartment today, you need at least a 640, 660, 680 FICO score. So it's not the credit. It is the money. The money. The cost of living is so high, it's hard for people to save the money. I read one study years ago that it would take years, like 10, 15, 20 years for people to save the money they need for a 20% down payment. And then there's a lot of misinformation out there also about how much is needed for a down payment to buy a home. Well, Carolyn Sunseri is here to set the record straight. Not only can you get into a home with very little money down, but there are really some creative ways that they're doing it, from down payment assistance to helping people move up to the next home, not with very, very flexible underwriting guidelines. And they have done this hundreds of thousands of times. And so, without any further ado, the fabulous, the incredible Carolyn Sunseri is with us today. Welcome, Carolyn, to the show.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Eric. It is great to be on shows like this. There are such great topics for the VIP agents to tackle, good information, whether you're a first-time home buyer or not. But the reason that I love to be a part of these shows is because I am talking about one of those biggest challenges to home buyers. It's coming up with the associated money for the down and then closing costs. A lot of people maybe consider, yeah, I do have to have some cash resources put down on a mortgage, but then they're not aware that then there's going to be title fees and escrow fees and interest that's collected ahead of time. And pretty soon there's a large amount of closing costs involved that they aren't prepared for as well. And so It's my pleasure to introduce Golden State Finance Authority to any of you who have never heard of the organization. We've been doing business here in California for over 28 years. We are a housing finance entity. It's a quasi-governmental entity, but we actually utilize our own money working with the investment market in order to put funds out there for the underserved communities, the communities that need assistance to purchase a home. And there are a lot of myths out there still about what is needed in cash resources to buy a home. In fact, if you go on the net right now and you pull up a mortgage calculator to figure out, based on your income and credit score, what you're looking at in a payment, most mortgage calculators default to a 20% down payment. That's insane. That's such a misconception, and it's programmed right on the Google pages. We have had programs in existence for as longer than I have been working for this organization. That's been 16 years, that do not require 20% down. There have been programs, the standard mortgage products out there through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans that don't require 10%, don't require 5% down. There are programs, VA and USDA loans, that require 0% down. And with the conventional loans, Fannie Mae and Freddie Macs, they only require 3% down, and an FHA transaction, 3.5%. So right there, we have just eliminated this misconception that you've got to come in with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 to purchase a home. However, if you're like me and you live here in California and the prices of everything keep going up, it's still difficult to save up for 10 grand or 20 grand or 30 grand to get into a house, even if it has a low down payment requirement. So when you work through organizations like Golden State Finance Authority, you have the ability to access a good mortgage loan, a fixed rate 30-year mortgage loan, a product that we are all very familiar with, that is very secure, and qualify for assistance to help you with your down, your closing costs. And if you have your own money, you can use that money to actually reduce the principal on the mortgage. And what does that mean to you as a buyer? So our programs go up to 7% in assistance. If you were looking to buy a $400,000 house, 7% of a $400,000 house is $28,000 in assistance that you can qualify for. That's a lot of money that you then can use for down or for closing costs. Our most popular program, Platinum, provides up to 5% in assistance. And even that is a lot of money. Looking at a $500,000 purchase price, that's $25,000 for you to utilize to help you get into that mortgage loan. Is it worth it? How many years would it take you to come up with $20,000 or $25,000 is the question. And so as I share a little bit more about these programs today, I want you to think in terms of a toolkit. What we're giving you is a tool to get into a home sooner than you might thought possible, sooner than if you have to save up for those resources for down payment and closing costs. And ultimately, when you're sitting down with one of our participating lenders like First Bank, and you're talking to that loan officer about your unique situation, they're going to be able to help you decide, are these programs the right fit for you or not? And sometimes they're not going to be the right fit. Maybe it will be better for you to wait another year and save up more money. Maybe there's another program that's a better fit. But what you have are now tools to see if you can purchase sooner than you thought you could. So let me share just a few high-level points about these programs. First of all of our down payment assistance programs have no limitation that you be a first-time home buyer. So if you owned a home in the past, you can qualify. If you own a home today, but you're looking to move up or move into a new home one that you're purchasing as your primary residence, you're going to be moving into it and occupying it, you can still qualify for down payment and closing cost assistance through Golden State Finance Authority. And then the guidelines that we set are very flexible. We don't set a lot of overlays on the standard mortgage products. So if you're working with a loan officer, or you have in the past, and you know that they're going to be looking at your income, they're going to be looking at your credit scores, your debts and your liabilities, they're going to be looking at your reserves and things of that nature. There are only a couple of guidelines that Golden State Finance Authority overlays on the program. And I can talk about them right here so that you know, could I qualify when you sit down with that loan officer? We do FICO scores as low as 620. Now, we have two different programs, so it may be that one program is a better fit if you have those FICO scores in the low 600s, and maybe the other program might be the better fit if your credit score is around 680 or 700, and that's where your loan officer is going to help you figure that out. We do debt to income ratios up to 50%, and that is with some back-end underwriting in some situations. Not all borrowers can get debt to income ratios up to 50%. Most times it's debt to income ratios of 45%. But again, there's some flexibility for special circumstances. I mentioned no first-time home buyer requirement. One that Eric and I like to talk about is you're not limited to a one-unit property. You could look at buying a duplex or a triplex, even up to a 4-unit property. By purchasing a multi-unit property, you have to occupy one side of that property, one unit, but you can use the rent on the others, either for income and also to help you qualify for the mortgage in the first place. I work out of Sacramento, California. Our programs are available through the entire state of California. And I see duplexes all the time. These are, a lot of the houses have been converted into duplexes, so 2-unit properties where one person lives on one side and the other has a separate entrance. Maybe that is your door into home ownership. So consider that. It's another option with the GSFA programs. You don't have to just buy a single unit property. And then the most attractive features of our programs, especially our Platinum program, is that the money that is provided to you gets forgiven after a certain amount of time. So with the Platinum Down Payment Assistance Program, where we provide 5% in assistance, after 3 years, that money is completely forgiven and you do not have to pay it back. In fact, we forgive it 1 year at a time. Because, you know, sometimes something comes up and someone has to take a job or move at the end of year 2. And so what we're doing is we're forgiving 1/3 of it after the first year, 2/3 after the second year. And at the end of 3 years, we forgive all of it and it does not have to be paid back. In that same program, we can provide the assistance as a gift on the very first day your escrow closes if you work in one of the special occupations that we are really trying to support. And those include anyone who works in health and medical, anyone who works in law enforcement, education, in fire and emergency medical response. And when I mention these occupations, I am not just talking about the person that you see driving in a police car, or the person who is a teacher or an administrator. It is anyone who works for one of those organizations. You could work in management, you could work in record keeping, you could work in dispatch, you could be a nurse, you could also be someone who helps take care of the property. So keep it in mind that if you work in or for an organization of those nature, health and medical, fire, emergency medical response, or emergency medical technicians, things of that nature, and any education, public, private, vocational schools, anything of that nature, you can qualify for our down payment assistance program called Platinum and get the assistance as a gift the day that escrow closes and never have to pay that money back. I don't know how many programs really exist today that are not just providing you the money to get into the property, but then also letting you build equity right away, whether that's on the first day or after 3 years. It's a part of establishing your wealth through home ownership, and we are dedicated to helping families do that here in California. We have helped over 82,000 people to purchase homes in the last couple of decades. We have provided over $630 million in down payment assistance out there in the California market. You can learn lots of more information about our programs on our website. Eric and myself have put some videos together that you can go and watch that'll get you some more details about the program. But I really want you to remember that it's your VIP agents, your real estate agents who are experienced in the market, who also know about down payment assistance programs, your loan officers who understand these down payment assistance programs. They are your advocates. They're the one that you need to get in contact with, and let them look at your scenario, figure out how soon you can buy. Maybe there's some things that you have as challenges to address so that you can be buyer ready in 6 months from now or in a year from now. But don't wait, get started now, because the assistance is really out there. It's not a myth. There is actually down payment assistance available today to help you purchase.
Carolyn, fantastic job. The power is now to buy, and the help is available right now through the Golden State Finance Authority. You did a fantastic job and just breaking down some of the unique features of this program. And for me, what stands out the most for especially baby boomers is that you don't have to be a first-time home buyer, that you can actually retain the property that you currently own because you're headed to retirement, you're looking to downsize, and so maybe you can rent it out or maybe sell it later or sell it now, either way, but you don't have to sell it in order to utilize your program. You only have to just move into the home, right? I want to be clear on that for the baby boomers like me who are looking to downsize.
Yes, it's definitely not to help people buy second homes, vacation homes, investment properties. This is really for people who are going to own or occupy a primary residence. So you will need to be moving into that new residence. And there are some guidelines from the actual loan agencies. I know, for example, Freddie Mac allows you to hold on to a property and go ahead and rent it while you purchase another one to move into. But your loan officer is going to be able to tell you those nuances. If FHA allows that, can you do that if you're getting a VA loan? And that's where your loan officer is your advocate to get into those further details. And I do want to remind people that these programs sometimes just seem too good to be true. And then I get the hesitation on the sides of the real estate agent or the sellers who are getting an offer from somebody who's qualifying for down payment assistance. There is no delay in this whole process. The day that the loan officer locks in your interest rate with Golden State Finance Authority for your mortgage loan, they also are locking in the amount of assistance that you're requesting, and they get a commitment letter. And that right there goes into the approval package. The lender goes through the standard approval, and your closing is not delayed simply because you're accessing a program through a governmental entity. So don't let that hesitate you at all.
Carolyn, thank you for bringing that up, because it is a perception out there that now the lender has to wait for Golden State to approve the loan and then to fund the loan. And so it could add additional time to the escrow. And that is simply not the case, folks. First Bank is an approved lender for the Golden State Finance Authority Platinum Program. And we completely process and fund that loan, even the down payment assistance, and we get reimbursed after the fact. And so participating in the program does in no way delay the process. And in fact, Carolyn, we issue loan commitments on the Golden State program. And so agents are able to make offers and waive the loan contingency because it is literally done. There are no income, asset, or credit requirements whatsoever on that loan. They find a property, it appraises, we can close in 21 days, sometimes even sooner. And so how could any lender that's depending on a housing finance agency or down payment assistance organization close that quickly if in fact they had to wait for them to process, approve, and fund the down payment assistance portion? So thank you for bringing that up. Also too, in regard to FHA, VA, you're able to buy a 4-unit property with 3.5% down. Conventional loans don't allow that. Even under this program, you cannot buy a 4-unit property on a conventional loan with less than 25% down, even with down payment assistance. But you can buy a 4-unit property or a 3-unit or a 2-unit with only 3.5% down FHA, no money down VA, and still get down payment assistance from the Golden State Finance Authority. One other thing, Carolyn, I would like to bring up, and then I'll bring my VIP agents in on this, and that is co-signers. So you have solved the problem. You have solved the problem with down payment. So they have the credit, they have the money, but home prices are so high, it's really putting a great deal of pressure on debt ratios exceeding the 45 minimum, or if they have a FICO score of 680 or higher, then they can go to 50. And so your program allows co-signers for, and this is with all three platforms, you talk FHA, VA, or USDA, and conventional, four different programs. The Golden State program is still applicable even with a co-signer. And I have to say, there are a lot of down payment assistance programs that have more restrictive FICO score requirements and also will not allow co-signers at all. That to me is another benefit.
And one of the questions I also get out there is, well, these down payment assistance programs, aren't they just for low-income borrowers? And I need to mention that that's not true as well. Yeah. The Golden State Finance Authority doesn't have any income limits at all for FHA, VA, and USDA loans, okay? For our conventional loans, there is an income limit, but it's very high. We are providing this program in a conventional format for low and moderate income borrowers. And just to show you how high that is, I pulled some of the income limits for conventional financing. You can get this off of our website as well. Down in Southern California, Riverside, San Bernardino, Fresno, LA County, 162,000, and you can still qualify. Contra Costa County, 240,000, and you can still qualify. And again, those income limits are only applicable on the conventional loan side. You can look them up on our website by the county in which the property is located, but we're not just making down payment assistance available to low-income borrowers who absolutely need it, but also to moderate income borrowers. This affordability issue is broad. It is affecting everyone. And so we are wanting to incentivize both the low income borrowers and moderate income borrowers to be able to get into home ownership, because that is one of the biggest ways of building wealth and financial stability for your future. And it stabilizes communities.
Carolyn, thank you so much for demystifying some of the myths out there about down payment assistance and all the so-called limitations and are the disadvantages. There aren't any. And if you are serious about home ownership and you need the money, you can get it at the Golden State Finance Authority. I'm going to bring in our VIP agents for any final words or comments about Carolyn's presentation and about the topics we've covered here so far. And so let's bring in Yvonne McFadden. And Yvonne, tell us what you think here about what you've heard so far in this presentation and any final comments you would like to add.
You know, Carolyn, you always do such a great job talking to us about the programs that you offer, the Golden State. I'm in Arizona, and we do have some of the programs, but they do not mirror California. And it would be fantastic if more of our DPAs did mirror what you're speaking of. So I'm excited because I'm always pushing for those companies and loan officers to offer the programs that you have identified. So that is a very important factor for any buyer that is looking to purchase. And I love the fact that it isn't only for median income, it's for people that have money. I say OPM, use other people's money. And why not? Because if you stay in the property for 3 years and you don't have to pay it back, that's phenomenal. That is such a huge factor in purchasing, because home ownership is very important to every person in America and across, you know, the world. Home ownership just really offers the stability, and I always say it's building wealth. So, and I do like the fact that we speak often on multifamily units. That's key, because you can live there and have your mortgage paid with your tenants. So a huge factor. And I just thank you for being a part of this. And in Arizona, as you know, we have housing that begin in the 300,000s. And that is just not heard of. And 1,400 square feet. But I'm shifting now, Eric, because I apologize for not being set up completely, but I'm in the home that I featured on the market update. I was with the buyer. I'm the listing agent, and I had the buyer here writing the contract.
Well, congratulations. I hope it's all done.
It is. It's done. Everything is done. Matter of fact, when I hang up, I'm going to open escrow.
Hey, nobody sells Arizona like Yvonne McFadden, with the VIP agent of The Power Is Now. Thank you, Yvonne, for your comments and being a part of the show. This has really been a great show. I want to give Marisa and also Ameer an opportunity to have some final comments. But Yvonne, before you go, if you could just give the audience your contact information. If anybody's looking to purchase a home in Arizona, it is unbelievable that you can get brand new construction in Arizona for under 300,000. And folks, although I cannot do down payment assistance in Arizona, I can do FHA, VA. You know, FHA is 3.5%, conventional 3%, VA, no money down in Arizona. So reach out to Yvonne. Yvonne, if you could share your contact information one more time.
Absolutely. And before I do that, I just want you to know this buyer, her loan is through First Bank.
Outstanding.
I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yes,
But
sir.
I'm Yvonne McFadden. I'm out of Scottsdale, Arizona. And my contact information is 480-628-2619. And you could reach me through my website, YvonneMcFaddenRealtor.com. And as always, all my VIP agents and agents listening, I refer as well as I accept referrals, and that I call it residual income. So don't fail to refer your clients to Arizona, because that's where most of our people are coming from. We have just about 200 people per day relocating to Arizona. And out of that, it's 75% coming from California. So I am here, Yvonne McFadden. My license number is SA0350-43000. I'm with Deluxe Realty. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Yvonne McFadden, VIP agent of The Power Is Now. Marisa, you have been outstanding today. Your second Homebuyer Town Hall. How are you liking it so far, being a part of this panel discussion and this bi-monthly show?
Well, you know, I've got to say that I am absolutely loving it. I believe that the content, not I believe, I know that the content is very valuable. I mean, this is the insider secrets. These are the insider tips that buyers and sellers want to know about, when it comes to our market and managing this market. So I thank you, Eric, for putting on this platform, because like I said, this is very valuable content for those consumers that are out there. And thanks for having me as a part of it.
You are very welcome. You are a VIP agent. And folks, we are encouraging you, if you haven't found an agent yet, to get advice and to help, reach out to one of our established VIP agents to guide you through this challenging process, especially today. Marisa, before we end, can you just, for the sake of the podcast, just provide your contact information for anybody who might want to make contact with you and talk about their needs?
Yes, I can. Everyone, my name is Marisa Fletcher. I am half of a husband and wife team, King's Realty Group. We are located in the Inland Empire. We service anywhere from LA County to San Diego County. My phone number is area code 951-870-5183. And my team, which is my husband and myself, we are with eXp Realty. And I thank anyone for listening to us, listening to my content. We specialize in helping that first-time buyer, that move-up buyer, and we also work a lot with investors. So that's me, Eric.
Again, thank you, Marisa, for doing a great job today. Your second Homebuyer Town Hall. Looking forward to more. Next up is Ameer Elahee with eXp as well. Ameer, thank you for being on the show today. Your final comments and contact information for our audience.
Well, thanks again for having me, Eric. It's always a pleasure to come and hang out with Homebuyer Town Hall. So I'm excited again about the market that we're in, as well as the market that we're going into. I am really excited about serving the folks here in Southern California. I've done deals from Bakersfield to San Diego, so I have no limits other than how far my car will take me. My license number is 01313. 504. I can be reached at area code 626-625-0099. That's 626-625-0099.
Thank you, Ameer. Again, I always appreciate your contributions to the show, your insight. And I tell you, folks, I love real estate. I'm kind of in between. I don't know whether just be a full-time real estate agent or a full-time banker. I'm a full-time banker is what I am. But I love real estate, and I love talking to real estate professionals who are serious about real estate, serious about helping people and serving their clients. I also love working with Carolyn Sunseri. Carolyn and I spent a great deal of time together producing content to educate the public about homeownership. She is a tremendous partner to The Power Is Now, helping us to fulfill our mission, and which is making homeownership a reality to everyone, regardless of race, color, sexual orientation, creed, religion, national origin. We believe that homeownership is an absolute right. And I'm proud to be associated with organizations, with companies, and with real estate agents who believe the same and are doing the same. They're doing what we're doing, and that is educating people and helping them to achieve their American dream. Carolyn, you have any final thoughts or comments you would like to share to our audience before we end this show?
Well, since you're talking about education, I think that's what I would like to encourage people to do. Don't self-diagnose your situation or throw the idea of homeownership out of the field because you think that you've had a hardship in the past, or you're not making as much today as other friends of yours that are homeowners. Get in contact with a loan officer and find out what types of programs are out there, what type of assistance is out there. Don't self-diagnose, because you could be missing out on an opportunity. When I first bought a home, I was completely overwhelmed by the process, and I was able to take advantage of a program back then called a mortgage credit tax certificate. And it was the one little piece that helped me bridge that gap and be able to buy a house that was $10,000 more. There are ways and means that you may not be familiar with. So that's what I encourage people to do, is keep educating yourselves. Reach out to the The people who do have the knowledge, reach out to the VIP agents, your loan officers talking about down payment assistance. You can reach Golden State Finance Authority. There's a lot of information on our website. It's gsfahome.org. You can see videos there where we discuss the products in more detail. You can always call the 800 toll-free number, 855-740-8422. And if I'm not there to answer the questions, there's a whole team of client relations representatives there to help you and to get you in contact with our participating lenders like First Bank. And I think we're going to leave you with an even easier way of reaching Eric or myself through some URLs. So take it away, Eric.
Thank you, Carolyn. First, folks, again, I am approved with the Golden State Finance Authority, also the California Housing Finance Agency. I'm a specialist in down payment assistance and working with first-time homebuyers, but also with investors. And regardless of what your needs are, First Bank has many products and programs to help you achieve the goal of home ownership. Now, if you would like to ask questions or want to have a meeting with myself or with Carolyn, go to neverrentagain.com. Neverrentagain.com will ask you a few questions to make contact with you. You can even get started with the process of the loan approval process with us for the Golden State Finance Authority. Again, that's neverrentagain.com. Also, too, I have on a mobile app the links directly to the interest rates, to the program guidelines for both the Golden State Finance Authority, the California Housing Finance Authority. Go to qualifytobuynow.com, qualifytobuynow.com. And that will take you to a landing page. Put in your cell number. It'll send you the link. You can download the mobile app to your Android or your iPhone. And then finally, go to applytobuynow.com, applytobuynow.com. If you want to get started today, get pre-approved today, right? And in our case, a pre-approval is a full loan commitment. We do not issue pre-approvals. We issue nothing but full loan commitments so that you are able to make the most competitive offer you possibly can and even waive the loan contingency because a loan is completely done. Folks, thank you for watching the show today. If you're listening to our podcast, please share this information with others. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our newsletter on thepowersnow.com. Check out our magazine, our podcast, our live radio shows. We have just a ton of content all centered on home ownership. Well, that concludes our show. Remember, we are at our best and we maximize our success when we act now. The power is now. Thank you for watching.
The Power is Now Media is worldwide with growing audience of future homebuyers, investors, builders, developers, real estate agents, and brokers. The Power is Now Media is well positioned to increase awareness and produce results for our growing roster of advertising partners. An advertisement on any of our platforms is the right step toward reaching and communicating key brand messages to a targeted network of individuals, families, and communities interested in housing. Our content areas include feature stories and profiles on successful real estate agents, business owners, government, and community leaders. The Power is Now magazines are the leading resource for real estate agents, mortgage bankers, entrepreneurs, and small home ownership businesses, providing leaders with business strategy information, resources, and tools through PIN, real estate, and programming guide magazines. Stay up to the minute with real estate and mortgage news and information from industry experts. VIP agents are able to feature listings each week. The Power is Now TV radio podcast features weekly shows that include Homebuyer Townhall, Real Estate Roundtable, VIP Agent Spotlight, and so much more. Each week, VIP agents have opportunities to be featured guests on the shows. VIP agents can discuss and showcase houses, neighborhoods, and provide brief introduction. The interviews are unlimited 10 to 15 minutes on each current listing. This product alone separates you from your competition. The Power Is Now delivers to you market update interview to promote listing weekly, promotional biographical video, co-host a bi-monthly Homebuyers Townhall show, featured subject matter expert on real estate roundtable show. The Power Is Now program guide e-magazine. The Power Is Now national e-magazine. Article writing and blogging. Social media content customization. Inclusion and press releases. Graphic design services. Business and performance coaching. Technology support. Referrals. Lead generation opportunities and management support.